systems engineer typically acts within a role in the V-cycle to facilitate the delivery of a project. We've seen the V-cycle in previous lessons, but there are a variety of roles, some more specialist, others more generalist. So let's have a look at some of the examples. A researcher, conducting trade studies to understand user needs, market analysis, and market segments. So this might be at the very beginning of a project, up on the V-cycle top left-hand corner, where people would like to understand more about the business opportunity, the customer segment, the market segment, etc., etc. This is handy for a system engineer to get involved in because they're bringing a technical aspect to the business element of the project. Requirements manager. This is a stage down below the researcher where you'd start eliciting proper system or customer requirements derived from the user needs. Requirements on big projects can grow up to 10,000 plus. So they assign requirements to teams to be fulfilled and then managed, as well as providing evidence to support the qualification of the requirement. Requirements management is a big role within large organizations. Next up is system architect. So architecting the potential architectures for the system requirements. We're taking these architectures and then essentially exploring how we can fulfill the requirements by using one or more architectures. There could be multiple architectures. It's up to the system architect to decide which one is the most beneficial to the requirements. Coming down from that, system designer. You could be acting as a designer of the system design that fulfills the specified requirements. This could be electrical, mechanical, stress, control systems. This is where the natural elements and the natural disciplines such as electrical, mechanical, etc. starts coming in a systems aspect. Modeler, so that's becoming a really big part of common day systems engineering. We want to start validating and verifying our designs early on in the process to help reduce the cost of having to build expensive prototypes just to understand our designs. So we're using tools such as CAD, FMEA, MATLAB, Rhapsody to understand its strengths, weaknesses and performance very early on, and then this gets relayed back into the systems design team to make amendments. System integrator. This is a really interesting role. This is where you'd essentially be carrying out a role which builds something that isn't commercial off the shelf. So could we require cobbling together some hardware with some software and essentially trying to make sure it all comes together and you're not getting any emergent behaviors which essentially you didn't plan for. You have to work close with the design team, the requirements team, the architects to understand all the different peculiarities of the system to essentially make the best product. Looking at test engineers. So we've built these systems, we've had requirements engineers, we've had the design, build and essentially bringing together of the system. Now it's up to the test engineer to test and make sure that the system or function works as per the specification. So we use test specifications and test scripts to essentially ensure that it meets the design standard. This may be in a test rig or in a laboratory or even commissioning into a service. Safety engineer. Becoming a massive part of systems engineering is the ability to safely ensure that every product we make is reaching a certain standard. So as a safety systems engineer, you'll be writing and supplying evidence as to why the product is deemed safe. Utilize the requirements specified. You would then make safety calculations and analysis such as FMEA and provide this evidence to authorities for a certification. You'll be working across many disciplines as a safety engineer, working with your test engineers, your designers, all gathering evidence to make sure that the system you're building is safe. And finally, once a product becomes into service, then a large part of a system engineering role may be the maintenance and upgrades of that product. So you'd be acting to provide in-service upgrades, maintenance programs such as ILS, and supporting the system after it's been built and commissioned. It could be doing tech refresh programs, all part of keeping a system safe over its intended lifetime. So these are some of the different roles that you may be doing as a system engineer. Some are really exciting. Other ones can be quite boring, but to be a well-rounded system engineer, you have to essentially cover quite a few of them before you start becoming and more detailed expert. So that's just some of the roles that we would typically do as a systems engineer.